Welcome to the Buffalo Sports Conversation Room. I'm your host, Jamie Malloy, and I'm here to discuss Week 7 football. But first, I'd like to bring on my co-host, Joe Dalio. So without any further ado, here's Joe. Hey, Joe, how's it going?
It is going great. How you doing, Jamie?
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. Can you believe we're already on episode 9 of season 2 already?
No, I cannot believe that. A lot of stuff going fast in the sports landscape. We're still in sports heaven here, October, which is sports heaven month. I always say that. We've got some great baseball playoffs going on. Congratulations to your Yankees, by the way, for
Thank
getting to the
you.
World Series there. Hockey's now starting. You know, my favorite over the last few years, NBA basketball is starting tonight. My Knicks going against the defending champion Celtics.
There
Just
are
so
Knicks
much going.
too, Joe. I'm a Knicks fan too.
Okay. Oh, I didn't realize that. So, with that going on, and then by the way, we got some football to talk about here, and a lot of great stuff going on with the Bills and in the NFL that we're certainly going to get to. So, again, Sports Heaven Month is living up to its name.
Yep. So, anyway, Joe, are we ready to talk about the Thursday night competition between the Denver Broncos taking on the New Orleans Saints? Who dat?
Yes, let's talk about it.
All right. With 5:28 left in the first quarter, kicker Will Lutz boomed a 46-yard field goal to bring the score to 3-0 Denver. Lutz hit another field goal with 13:24 left in the second quarter to increase Denver's lead to 6-0. The Broncos scored their first touchdown of the game as running back Javonte Williams scored on an 8-yard touchdown with 7.5 minutes left in the first half to bring the score to 13-0 Denver. The Saints finally got on the board with 1:57 left in the half as kicker Blake, I want to have a groupie, connected on a 35-yard field goal to cut the lead to 13-3 Denver. Lutz then closes out the half with a 52-yard field goal to increase Denver's lead 16-3 at halftime. With 10:24 left in the third quarter, Lutz hits another field goal, this time from 38 yards, to bring the score 19-3. After the Saints don't go marching in again, with 5:53 left in the third quarter, Williams scores his second touchdown in the evening from 5 yards, increasing the Broncos' lead to 26-3 at the end of three quarters. Put those fours up, everybody, like they do in college, because we're going to the fourth. With 4:06 remaining in the fourth quarter, Denver's Cody Barton retrieves a fumble all the way to the end zone to bring the score 33-3 Denver. The Saints finally came alive, and Cedric Wilson Jr. caught a 12-yard touchdown pass from backup quarterback Jake Haener to bring the score to 33-10. And that's how the score would finish out. So, Joe, I see that Denver's field goal kicker Will Lutz kicked 4 field goals in the game. What was it that Denver's offense couldn't do to punch it in to get the 6 points and the touchdowns?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I looked at the stats here, and Denver's stats really weren't that impressive in this game. You got Javonte Williams with the 88 yards rushing and a couple of touchdowns, but good performances, but nothing that stood out. So I didn't get a chance to see too much of this to be able to answer that question. I will say this, though, on the other side, talking about the Saints, I do feel bad for the Saints. I thought they had a lot of promise this season. I thought I picked them to win the division. The NFC South was up for grabs. And I really thought the Saints would be the team to take it here. But they've just had so many injuries, and it just seems like they keep piling up. And, it's going to be very difficult for them to get back in this, especially the fact that other teams in the division are playing well. But my question, again, is more with the Saints here. I really don't know why the Broncos couldn't score more. But let's talk about somebody named Alvin Kamara. I mean, is this guy officially washed up? every week it seems like, okay, this is the week that he breaks out. This is the week that he gets it going. I've taken him on daily fantasy a couple of times. I know other people that have him on fantasy teams. And I was like, oh my goodness, I was able to get Alvin Kamara on my team and do that. And he disappoints every single time. 7 rushes for 10 yards in this game, and he had 14 yards receiving. Every week now, it's a false alarm with this guy, and I'm wondering if he's ever going to get it back. And have we seen, the best already of Alvin Kamara? I just don't get, the Saints need him, and he's not stepping up. So that's my biggest question there is what the heck is wrong with him? As far as the Saints is concerned, a lot of injuries. And on the other side, though, look at the Broncos. It's, they're starting to play like a winning team. Well, another winning team we're going to talk about that doesn't really have impressive statistics, just like the Broncos in this game, maybe missed a few opportunities, don't have really any impressive stats, but this team is starting to win. And people in Denver are starting to talk potential playoffs here. And it's more of the defensive side of the ball. And as they proved in this game, I mean, the Denver defense has been playing great all season. And if they do get to the playoffs or have a chance at the playoffs, it's going to be the defense that carries them there. But this team that wasn't really talked about much in the beginning of the season is starting to live up to the potential we thought maybe would happen last year. And, going with Bo Nix here and him starting to get better and the offense starting to come together a little bit, the defense playing as well as it has, look out for the Broncos here because they're starting to play like a winning team. Not, nothing impressive, but getting the job done and getting wins, especially solid wins like this one.
Yeah, and they probably look pretty smart now. They're keeping Russell Wilson's dead contract to have Bo Nix there.
Mm-hmm.
But I also want to talk about the biggest problem with the Saints is Derek Carr's hurt.
Yes.
However, though, I do think Spencer Rattler still has potential. It's just only been 2 games. I mean, he has shown some flashes, Joe. I mean, Jake Hayner's not bad either for a backup. So maybe the one good thing is this could be the end of Derek Carr, but could be the beginning of getting tape for these guys and holding the fort and until they maybe think about drafting a rookie next year. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think, Rattler can grow. I watched him play in college and I thought he was decent. And I don't think he's horrible. He's not Derek Carr, but I think for the rest of this season, you can ride it out with him and, maybe he can play himself into a job there and play himself into the top role and give himself a chance for next year. Or do the Saints draft somebody else? It'll be interesting to see. So nothing against him. I mean, there's just too many injuries that have caught up with the Saints, obviously. And they got up to that great start. I was like, yeah, told you this team's going to be great. But, their chances of making the playoffs, I think, are slim to none at this point.
Obviously, Spencer Rattler isn't Derek Carr, but the one thing he's got going for him, at least he's a dual threat, whereas Derek Carr is just more of a stone in the pocket.
Right.
And some of the runs you saw that Rattler made during the game that he picked up 9 or 10 yards, Carr wouldn't have been able to do that.
Right.
So,
no, I like Rattler. I
same thing with Jake Hayner. He can scramble too.
Mm-hmm.
So, but now turning our attention to our game of the week, the Tennessee Titans taking on our Buffalo Bills at 1:00 at Orchard Park. With 3 minutes left in the first quarter, Nick Folk, the Buffalo Bills Monday night soul crusher, making 2 53-yard field goals for Dallas when he was with the Cowboys. But anyway, kicks a 25-yard field goal to put the first points on the board to bring the score to 3-0 Titans. With 11:31 left in the second quarter, Mason Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, threw a 4-yard touchdown pass to Nick Westbrook, increasing the Titans' lead to 10-0. The Bills responded back with 10:04 remaining in the second quarter as James let him cook, scored with his 5th rushing touchdown of the season with an 11-yard score to cut the lead to 10-7 Titans. With 10:23 left in the third quarter, Josh Allen threw a 12-yard touchdown pass to our newly acquired wide receiver, Amari Cooper, to give the Bills their first lead in the game, 14-10. With 4:15 left in the third quarter, Tyler Bass made a 28-yard field goal to increase Buffalo's score to 17-10. Early in the fourth quarter, Allen threw a 4-yard touchdown pass to Ty Johnson, resulting in 24 unanswered points for the Bills. Again. With 9:29 left in the fourth quarter, Bass made a 30-yard field goal to bring the score to 27-10, Buffalo. After Damar Hamlin made his second career interception with 4:31 left in the game, Allen had 2 nice passes to Coleman, which resulted in a 16-yard touchdown from Ray Davis to secure the score at 34-10. So, Joe, what did you think about the Bills starting out slow in the beginning? Again, that's another recurring theme with this team of the game, and then scoring all their points at the end of the game. The Bills like to be a battle-tested team. We said they were going to win ugly. I said it too, but they still found a way to pull the game away, even though they won ugly.
Yeah, I had a flashback to week 1 with this game. In fact, I was watching it with a friend here, and I said that. I said, this reminds me so much of the Arizona game week 1. You know, playing a weaker opponent at home. Again, a game that you would expect to win. And they got off to a rough start. And it's the same thing. I said eventually, you know, we both thought that they were going to get it together and take the game over, which they eventually did. But like you said, this has become a recurring theme. Does that have to do with coaching? Does that have to do with other things? It's, you know, why are the Bills not, you know, why are they getting off to these slow starts in some of these games, especially these home games? And I guess that's not abnormal. Sometimes a team coming up against a weaker opponent in their home stadium might get off to a weaker start. But I think maybe this was coaching. I don't know. So, you know, if we're going to criticize and say, hey, they weren't quite ready to play, I saw a totally different team come out in the second half. And I think that was coaching. I think, you know, McDermott and some of these other guys must have said something, because when they came out of the locker room onto the field for that second half, I saw a completely different team. So don't know if he ripped into them at halftime or what happened, but things were totally different when they came out. Now, again, I was just talking about, you know, the Broncos winning, not playing maybe their most impressive game. And the Bills, now Josh Allen, when you look, you know, when you watch the game, it's like, well, Josh Allen didn't seem to do much. But when you look at the numbers, he had over 300 yards passing. He had like 323 yards, a couple of touchdowns. Now, I'm going to ask you, I didn't know this until I looked at the stats here. Do you know how many yards rushing Josh Allen had in this game?
I don't, but can you tell me?
One.
One.
When's the last time Josh Allen had 1 yard rushing? I can't remember any games where he had that few. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Maybe that's why we didn't notice Josh Allen that much. Maybe maybe it's just me. Again, he threw for over 300 yards, so statistically had an excellent game, but only ran for 1 rushing yard. So interesting fact. Great that he didn't have to run a ton. Great to see Amari Cooper and hear the stadium with those Cooper chants, like you said there. He started slow, but we expected him to. Right? It's hard for a guy to come mid-season here and all of a sudden figure out an offense that he hasn't played all year. So had 4 catches, 66 yards, got the touchdown. It was great to see. Looked like he belonged. And we said that his presence was going to affect other guys on this team. And it certainly did. Keon Coleman with 4 catches, 125 yards. Shakir, 7 catches, 65 yards. So we said last week that this was going to have some impacts on the rest of the offense, and he certainly did. You know, the everybody eats philosophy with the Bills offense certainly was in effect this week. 7 different players caught at least one pass. Another thing here, too, that I'll ask you another little mini trivia question here on the defensive side of the ball. Now, again, the Bills played solid on defense here. Now, I was watching this game with a friend, and he kind of had, he said something about Damar Hamlin and how, well, it seems like Hamlin, this was before the interception, doesn't seem to do much and this and that. And I said, you know what? I pointed out to him, I said, Damar Hamlin is second in this team in tackles. And I asked him, who do you think would be the leading tackler on the Bills? And he could not figure it out for the life of him. So I'll ask that question. Do you know who the leading tackler is on the Bills?
Dorian Williams.
All right. See, you got it right away. But a lot of people would be like, that's the last name they would think of here as far as tackles. And Dorian Williams acted like the top tackler on the team here because he had another 10 as far as total tackles. He leads the team with 70 like either assisted tackles or solo tackles, combined. Damar Hamlin is next on the team with 43. So Dorian Williams just quietly doing his thing here, a very valuable member of the Bills defense, and he certainly played like it. The only negative of this, Terrell Bernard played great, which is not a negative, but got injured again. And it looks like he's going to be out for this upcoming game here. So, that hurts a little bit. But, still excellent effort by the Bills here. And, again, slow start. And you got to try to avoid getting off to those slow starts. But certainly, again, getting the job done, maybe not the most impressive performance, but, again, getting the job done, getting a solid win. I predicted 31-20. I thought maybe I got another chance to get another correct score. I thought maybe it was going to end like 31-17, but the Bills got the 34 there. So solid performance. You were pretty close with your prediction too, I think. So nice job getting it done by the Bills.
Yep. And Joe, what did you think of Ray Davis once again stepping in and scoring that touchdown while Cook was taking a breather and kind of being that third back in our triple back offense where we have 3 solid backs and we can go 3 running backs deep besides Cook, and kind of a mini running back by committee offense now with us.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's proven that he's for real. I mean, he had that monster game against the Jets. You kind of thought at that point it wasn't a fluke because he played well the other games before that too. And he just continued right where he left off here. Excellent game. I think he got hurt. He's questionable, I think, for this week coming up. So it'll be interesting to see, what happens here. Hopefully he can play and contribute like he has. But great to see. I admit I didn't see this coming. I thought he'd be a solid contributor to the offense, but not as much as he has.
No, I think he's starting to come into his own, which is good. So let's say he doesn't go, right? Who would be their third back? Because it would be Cook, Johnson. Oh, no, it'd be Frank. I think it would be Frank Gore Jr. I think they'd have to, because remember they did the Monday night game against the Jets. They promoted him from the practice squad. I think
when Cook was out,
be their third back.
I think it would. Johnson would be the second back, and I think Gore might get another call here to be the third back.
That wouldn't be a bad option either. He worked hard to get on the practice squad, and he'll probably get his looks in Buffalo too.
Yeah. Just they're going to have to make that decision soon because they have a cross-country trip here coming up. So, they're going to have to make that decision soon and make sure, Gore is ready if they do indeed need him.
He plays like a shade of his father, like his old man. If you watch him play, that running hard with power, hard nose in between the tackles, old school up the middle like that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I did get to see him live. I saw the last preseason game, so he played a decent amount in that game. I thought he earned a spot on the team. You know, he made it to the practice squad and now getting his opportunities to play. So it would be good to see him get that opportunity if Davis can't go. I don't want to see Davis out, but if for some reason Davis can't go, it would be nice to see Frank Gore Jr. get a chance here.
Mhm. And Joe, what did you think about the defense, or really the whole team, making adjustments in the second half and having 11 quarterback hits?
Yeah, again, they woke up. And again, I don't know if that was the coach ripping into them or if they just realized, hey, we got a game on our hands and we better wake up. All aspects of the game, second half, were excellent. And they just played totally inspired second half where they weren't doing that first. So the defense, it seemed like Tennessee couldn't do anything. I mean, their offense obviously is not one of the stronger offenses in the NFL. But in this game, I definitely think the Bills defense had something to do with that. And, you know, Rudolph is a solid guy. And I thought, honestly, Tennessee, nothing against Levis, but he's been struggling a little bit. I thought they had a better chance to win this game with Rudolph in there than they did with Levis. But, you know, again, the Bills really didn't give him much of a chance. So excellent job by them.
Right. But like I said, remember what we talked about, though? The one thing that Tennessee does have potential is, like I said, when they got rid of Derrick Henry and they have Tony Pollard and some of these other backs and everything, at least, like I said, they built their offensive line through the draft. So at least Callahan and co, at least it looks like they're building a nice long-term offensive line that can develop chemistry and become at least one of the better ones in the NFL next year. So it would get better throughout the year.
Right.
So anyway, Joe, with Keon Coleman stepping it up this week, do you think that Cooper's presence helped him score that touchdown?
It's hard to say. We talked about it last week. I mean, of course, he could have scored that touchdown with or without Amari Cooper in there. But we talked about it last week, how Amari Cooper's presence is going to affect this entire offense. It's going to open up guys like Coleman more. It's going to open up guys like Shakir. And we saw that, you know, with the stats that I mentioned a few minutes ago. So I think that's going to continue to happen. Even Dalton Kincaid, I think we'll see him a little bit more involved in the offense here. So I think Coleman, again, he's had a touchdown before, and he certainly could have had another touchdown with or without Cooper there. But I think you would agree, like we talked about last week, that Cooper's presence is just going to make things easier for this entire offense. Even the running backs, I think, you know, it'll make things easier for them as well.
Mm-hmm. And now on to Joe's favorite part of the show, prediction time. Now, if I remember right at the beginning of the season, Joe, you had the Seahawks beating the Bills in week 7, and I took the Bills over the Seahawks. Do you still feel that way, and what's your score?
Yeah, I was going to say, usually this is my favorite part of the show, but I was going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and I'm a little confused now. You're right. I was going to mention the fact that in the beginning of the season, when we went through our schedule and the wins and losses, the Bills, I picked the Seahawks to win this game. But the current landscape of the NFL, as I've said several times on this show, and this is nothing new, but it seems especially true this year, when a team looks like a Super Bowl team one week, they seem to weaken the next week. Here's an example. The Atlanta Falcons just had a bunch of amazing games here, and they looked amazing. And everybody now, especially with the Saints struggling, with Tampa, you know, being inconsistent, everybody all of a sudden has the Atlanta Falcons penciled in as the NFC South champion. And then what happens is they play the Seattle team that they're expected to beat handily, and the Falcons didn't show up. The Seahawks looked like the Super Bowl contender in that game. Santa Clara lost their game, so Seattle is currently in first place in the NFC West, which is something that we did not expect after week 7. So that all lines up perfectly for a Bills victory. Now, the Bills, again, got their job done, and, they had a pretty handy win, but that's a game that they should have won anyway. Seattle traveled east, which it's tough for these West Coast teams to do. Again, they totally destroyed the Falcons in that game, and now got to make the trip, back to the other side of the country here. And just the way the NFL is going this year, Seattle's got it, right? They just beat the Falcons. Now they're in first place in their division. So that's the perfect spot for them to lose. So I am going to change my mind on this one. My prediction is Bills 27, Seahawks 24.
I'm going to keep my prediction that the Bills are going to win. And what you said, I think, still remains true. I think the Bills get off to a slow start again, but then they adjust and they kind of like the Houston game, they creep back closer, make it a battle-tested game. But this time I think the Bills come on the end of a close game. And I think the Bills are going to squeak by the Seahawks.
Mm-hmm.
I got Bills 24, Seahawks 21.
All right, so we both got the Bills by 3.
Mm-hmm. Now, moving on to the 425 matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. With 1:06 left in the first quarter, 49ers kicker Anders Carlson kicked a 55-yard field goal to give San Francisco the lead, 3-0. In the beginning of the second quarter, Kareem Hunt ran a 1-yard touchdown to bring the score to 7-3 Kansas City. With 6:45 left in the second quarter, Hunt scored his second touchdown to bring the Chiefs' lead to 14-3. Carlson then hit his second field goal to bring the score at halftime, 14-6 Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
San Francisco scored the only points in the third quarter as Brock Sitton Purdy snuck it in for a 1-yard touchdown to bring the score to 14-12 at the end of 3. In the beginning of the fourth quarter, Patrick Mahomes also scored on a 1-yard touchdown that brought Casey's lead to 21-12. Mecole Hardman ran the ball in for an 18-yard touchdown to enhance Casey's lead to 28-12 with 3:09 left in the game. Then with 1:08 left, Purdy ran it in for a 1-yard touchdown, but the 2-point conversion failed. San Francisco went for an onside kick, but it failed to travel 10 yards, and Kansas City took a knee to run out the clock, and the Chiefs held on to win in Santa Clara 28-18 over the 49ers. So, Joe, I know that we are Bills fans, but did it look like to you that Kansas City was getting some calls from the officials like they have in the past? Go right ahead.
Oh, that's impossible. The Kansas City Chiefs getting calls from the refs that they shouldn't? I have no idea what you're talking about, Jamie. And hopefully you could probably see and feel the sarcasm in that through the podcast fear here. And anybody watching, whether they're watching here in Buffalo or in China or wherever, I think they can detect the sarcasm that I have here. Yeah, of course, the Chiefs got some calls, and they always do. So, again, I was disappointed in Santa Clara with this game. I really thought this was going to be the Chiefs' first loss. I thought they were going to really come up for this game. Again, they've been underperforming, the 49ers have. And I said they're up for this game. The Chiefs are due for a letdown here. Not even a letdown. Of course, they were up for this game too, and they played like it. But looking at Santa Clara's point of view, I really thought this was a chance to show, hey, we're still a Super Bowl contender. We're still stinging from the loss to this team in the Super Bowl. They're playing in our park, so we're going to come out flying and we're going to win this game. And certainly they were in the game. They didn't get blown out. But I thought this is the game that the Chiefs lose. And I don't know what's going on here because I keep waiting for this team with the injuries that they have mounting up, especially on offense. I just keep waiting for that losing 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5 streak to come. against, they're playing all good teams here, and it's just not happening. And this game was another one. People, are almost critical of Patrick Mahomes about how unimpressive his statistics are. And even in this game, he threw for 154 yards. He had 2 interceptions. He scored a touchdown, but, unimpressive. But I always ask people, what would you rather have? A guy with ho-hum stats that just gets the job done and wins, or a guy with flashy stats that comes up short? And I think we all know the answer to that question. And Patrick Mahomes is just getting some ho-hum statistics here, but you know what? He's piling up wins. And of course, we all know he's going to be unbeatable in January, but right now, again, nothing special, just getting the job done, knowing how to win, and the Chiefs are still undefeated. In fact, they're the only undefeated team in the league. So kudos to them. Again, the 49ers certainly didn't help themselves. Brock Purdy had 3 interceptions in the game. So, that hurt. And of course, you hate to see big injuries. The 49ers had this whole contract dispute with Brandon Ayuk, and now Ayuk, tears his ACL and is done for the year. So that's sad to see. And very interesting stat. We're going to talk about some other injuries later, and I'll share this statistic at the end. So, stay tuned for that. But hate to see Brandon Ayuk go down, and that's certainly going to hurt their offense there. On the other side, the Chiefs did have a great game for Kareem Hunt, 78 yards rushing, a couple of touchdowns. So seems like just guys continually step up for this team. And now Kareem Hunt, back with the Chiefs after starting with them, stepping in where they need him and certainly helping the Chiefs out. So it'll be interesting to see. I was going to make a comment. Our cohort on this network here, Dylan, you remember the prediction he made in the beginning of the season about the 49ers?
Yeah, that they wouldn't make the playoffs, and Chairman John went nuts on him.
Right. And I still think the 49ers are going to be a playoff team. But are you starting to wonder, is this possible? Because the losses are starting to pile up for the 49ers. And I'm starting to wonder, is this wild, crazy prediction that was shot down by a few that you just mentioned, could this possibly happen?
Or what about when Dylan also said the Commanders would potentially win the NFC East, and they've been in first place, even with Jaden Daniels getting hurt. They've been in first place pretty much the entire season in the division.
Right. I still think that the Commanders, there's a better chance for the Commanders to come in first than for the 49ers not to make the playoffs. I'd be absolutely shocked if the 49ers don't make it, but that prediction is not so bold anymore as we're 7 weeks in. So just something to keep an eye on. Seattle's in first place now. And again, a team like that, just as they get to first place, now the letdown's coming, I think. But still, very interesting here. So I thought the 49ers would win this game and prove that they're still an elite team. Again, losing to the Chiefs, everybody else does it. So it's not like it's a season killer. But keep an eye on that team. And now losing Ayuk, and the offense is going to suffer a little bit. Keep an eye on things in Santa Clara.
Yep. And now drawing our attention to the 8:20 Sunday night meeting of the New York Jets, Jets, taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers and those terrible towels and Renegade playing at the beginning of the fourth quarter. Anyway, the Pittsburgh Steelers got on the board early as kicker Chris Boswell kicked a 46-yard field goal to bring the score to 3-0 Steelers. New York Jets running back Brees, the kids in the hall, scored a 13-yard touchdown to bring the Jets lead to 7-3. With 8:20 to go in the second quarter, Boswell hit a 29-yard field goal to cut the Jets lead to 7-6. On third and goal from the Pittsburgh 1, Aaron, Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, threw a touchdown pass to Tyler Conklin. Then they converted on a 2-point conversion to bring the score to 15-6 with 5:29 left in the half. Russell Wilson hit George Pickens in the end zone with 27 seconds left in the half to bring the score to 15-3 Jets at halftime. To open up the third, Boswell connected on his third field goal, this time for 21 yards, to take the lead 16-15 Pittsburgh. Wilson scored another touchdown to bring the score to 23-15 Pittsburgh. Wilson's got a sandwich named on after him called the Pittsburgher, and he washed it down with a little bit of Sierra Mist, if you know what I'm saying here. Got that joke from another coworker of mine at the Forkball. Anyway,
I like.
Jets kicker Greg Zuerlein, Legatron, had a 35-yard field goal blocked, not surprising, in the quarter to keep the score 23-15 Pittsburgh at the end of the third. Put those fours up. With 12:09 left in the fourth quarter, Wilson threw another touchdown pass, this time to not Van Jones from CNN, but Van Jefferson for a touchdown to bring the score to 30-15. Najee Harris added one more touchdown to close out the game to give Pittsburgh the big win at 37-15. So, Joe, with Davante Adams only getting 30 yards on 3 receptions, do you really think he was really ready to start this game? Because that first drop at the beginning of the third quarter told me he wasn't ready for that type
Yeah,
of
like we said with Amari Cooper, it's tough for these guys to come in mid-season, learn a whole new system, and be ready to play. So I don't think we can criticize him here. Again, Cooper got his touchdown, and we got to see that. But even if he hadn't, and he had only caught 3 or 4 passes for a few yards, again, I don't think we can criticize there. And same thing with this situation. He's certainly going to get better. He's certainly going to have positive impacts on that offense. So off to a tough start here, but I think that's to be expected. I've been supporting the Jets all year. I keep saying that, this is a great team. I said in the beginning of the year they were going to compete with the Bills for the division, actually win the division. I said, they're going to put it together. I was convinced, I would have bet my mortgage here that Davante Adams was going to end up on the Jets here. He did. And again, he's going to have some positive impacts. But I think this team is in more trouble than maybe I thought. I've been supporting them, giving them a chance all year, but I think their playoff hopes are severely diminished at this point. And it was the defense really that was supposed to carry this team. That's the biggest concern that they have. I got some stats here. Now, they're allowing 21 points a game, which isn't, I guess, awful, but they're having severe problems on the road. The Jets defense is giving up an average of 27 points in their road games. Remember the San Francisco game, this game. So certainly they're having issues playing on the road, and they're going to have to figure that out if they want any chance whatsoever to go on a run and give themselves a chance to make the playoffs. So, on the other side of things, talking about the Steelers now, I might have even said it on this show, and if I didn't last week, I certainly did in conversations with other people, that I wasn't so crazy about the change from Justin Fields to Russell Wilson. Fields was playing well. They were 4-2. They were winning games. So why at this point, even though Russell Wilson ready to play, would you make that change? And I realized something after this game. I realized that maybe I should just keep my mouth shut, stop questioning these good coaches here like Tomlin, and just let them do their thing. Because I think we all saw what Mike Tomlin was thinking as Russell Wilson just had an amazing game, 264 yards, 2 touchdowns, looked like he knew what he was doing and he was completely ready to play out there. So, again, I'll just sit back, shut my mouth, and let these guys do what they're doing. So, Najee Harris, he's been getting better each week. It seems like over 100 yards this week. George Pickens over 100 yards receiving. So solid matchup here, or solid offense here by the Steelers. Good defense as well, and serious concerns, especially on defense. I think the offense is going to get better with Adams there, but what's going on with this defense? Also, Breece Hall is starting to play like Breece Hall. So offensively, again, the Jets have some optimism there, but they better figure it out on defense, which was supposed to be the strength of their team, or else there any chances of them even thinking about the playoffs are going to be out the window.
Yeah, and I mean, what does that mean for Aaron Rodgers' future too? If
Very good
they
question.
don't make it,
I think people are thinking about that a little bit more these days.
they may have to draft the quarterback next year. I think they're going to do it anyway.
Yeah, they should.
Even if they do make the playoffs, I would at least try to get a back, not a backup, but like a Jordan Love type of first round pick, like they did in Green Bay.
Right, like Aaron Rodgers was
same
when some
way.
guy named Favre was there, right? So that's exactly what Aaron Rodgers did. He waited his few years and was the understudy and was the heir apparent to Brett Favre, and ultimately had his own Hall of Fame career here. So I think that's a great idea. I think the Jets should do that. Get somebody in here that if Rodgers stays, that you have somebody that can learn from one of the best.
Yeah. Exactly. Maybe he ends up winning the job right away. Who knows?
Right.
Not to take anything away from Aaron Rodgers, his career has been great, but I mean, he knew it. He even knows that at this point there's going to be a transition eventually.
Right. I mean, he's not playing horribly now, but he certainly can be playing better. And again, as he ages, you wonder, is that ability that he had before, any part of it still there? But again, I don't have too many complaints with how he's playing. Not maybe to the level as was expected, but certainly recoverable, especially with a guy like Rodgers.
Exactly. Now taking a look at the Monday night game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Tampa Bay Bucks. Fire those cannons, people, because here we go. With 10:27 left in the first quarter, Baker Mayfield completed a 25-yard touchdown pass to Mike Evans to make the score 7-0 Tampa. With 2 seconds left in the first quarter, kicker Chase McLaughlin kicked a 23-yard field goal to close out the first quarter to bring the score to 10-0 Bucks. The Ravens then got on the board with Lamar Jackson throwing a 9-yard pass to not Aaron Andrews, but Mark Andrews to cut the lead to 10-7 Bucks with 12:29 left in the second quarter. Jackson then threw another touchdown to Justice King of the Hill for 18 yards to bring the Ravens lead to 14-10 with 4:23 left in the second quarter. The Ravens ended the quarter with a 28-yard field goal by Justin Tucker to bring the score to 17-10 Ravens at halftime. We fast forward to late in the fourth quarter with the Ravens up 41-18 and on third and goal at the Baltimore 1-yard line, Tampa Bay running back Bucky Irving, love that name, converted on a one-yard touchdown run, but the two-point conversion was unsuccessful, which cut the Ravens' score to 41-24 with 3:46 left to play. After the Bucks recovered an onside kick, wow, especially because you have to announce it now too, right?
They still do those?
Yeah. The analytics. The funny thing is, Joe, sometimes they don't even go for the onside kick. They just kick it deep and trust their defense to stop them on third place at the 20-yard line because the analytics tell you you're not going to get them. So,
yeah, you got a better chance that way, I think.
Yeah. Or you just do what the UFL did and bring in the fourth down conversion play next year, which the Eagles proposed. And I think that's going to happen next year. They're going to bring that in.
I would love to see that.
Yeah. So anyway, the Bucks recovered the onside kick. Mayfield found other running back Rachaad White for a 20-yard touchdown to cut the score to 41-31. And that score would hold at the end of the fourth quarter. The Ravens beat the Bucks 41-31. So, Joe, now that Baker Mayfield has lost two of his star receivers in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, what do you think the Bucks need to do to regroup for next week? Maybe acquire somebody like a Cooper Kupp, a DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, I don't know what their financial situation is. It's sad to see those guys go down. I mean, I was watching, Mike Evans, and he shouldn't have played that game in the first place, and now just caused further injury to the hamstring issue that he's got. And instead of missing a game or two, could be out long term. And again, the major injury to Godwin, that's always sad to see. Obviously he's done. So, yeah, Rashid White is the guy now, and he had a great game yesterday. I think
he's a running back, though. That's the thing.
What's that?
He's not a receiver, though. He's a running back.
Yeah. So I don't know who they're going to go to as far as wide receiver, and I don't know. I think the Bucks are in a lot of trouble right now. Mm-hmm. So they're going to have to figure things out in a hurry. Now, I thought they had a chance in this game. Even before the game started, I said it's going to be very close. I think the Bucks could keep it close, if not win the game and pull off the upset in prime time. But there was a few guys on the other side of the ball that said it's not going to happen. Now, Lamar Jackson didn't actually say this, but I swear, based on his play, I thought I heard him say this. I've won the MVP twice, and the award is still mine. He certainly played like it. Close to 300 yards, 5 touchdowns, 52 yards rushing. I mean, this train is rolling. And oh, by the way, they still got this guy, Derrick Henry, who had started off slow. I said, oh, this is the game where Derrick Henry, I had a prop bet on him. And I was like, oh, of course, because I have that. Now this is the game where he has his off game. No, 169 yards rushing. So no stopping him. And we've talked about this on the show. Hate to bring it up again, the whole Chris Godwin thing. Something called a hip drop tackle. Now, was that not a hip drop tackle or what?
I don't think they've called one penalty on it all year. That's the funny thing.
They haven't. And you wonder why that shouldn't be in the league. This was an obvious hip drop tackle. And what happens? The guy had his foot on backwards, for crying out loud, because of that. And so it's got to be taken out of the league, and it's got to be called. And maybe this will, wake things up and wake people up to call that. And speaking of the hip drop, the last year's victim of it, or one of the biggest victims, Mark Andrews, had a nice game. It's good to see that he's back. He had a couple of touchdowns, and they got that 2 tight end, situation there where Likely is the other one there that they can use. So, I don't know. It's sad because Baker Mayfield has been doing extremely well, and I think he will continue to do so, but he's lost his 2 biggest weapons there, and he's going to have to figure out something very, very quickly. Whereas the Ravens are starting to show that, hey, we're in this Super Bowl conversation. And unfortunately, we all know what's going to happen. Sure, they'll get to the NFC or the AFC championship game, but we all know what's going to happen already. So it's kind of hard to get excited about that. But still, the Ravens are certainly playing like a team that's got Super Bowl aspirations, and Lamar Jackson is playing like somebody who's eyeing a 3rd MVP.
I think it depends, Joe. They only lost to them by 6 the first time. And like I said, the way to beat Kansas City, if you can just, what do? You beat them. You beat them at the line of scrimmage and just run the football down their throats, and that's what the Bills might do against Kansas City as well. So
So I had this dream. Now, wouldn't this be cool if it comes true? Right? I'm hoping this happens. I had this vision in my mind that it's the Ravens and the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. And the Ravens are down by 4 late in the game, and Lamar Jackson throws the pass. And who was it? Zay Flowers, maybe the first game of the season. And Flowers catches the ball at the tip of the end zone, and he just gets both feet in there, and the Ravens win, and they go to the Super Bowl. How cool would that be?
Yeah. Wouldn't be good for the Bills, but no more at least no three-peat.
Right. Of course, this is if the Bills are not a part of the picture. But if, let's say, if it's Ravens Chiefs in the AFC Championship game in Kansas City, and instead of just missing by a toenail, they just make it by a toenail, and just these crazy. I guess I got too much time on my hands. I don't know, but crazy vision that came into my mind. I was like, how cool would that be?
It would be cool. So anyway, guess what, Joe? It is now that time in our show for our question of the week segment. Would you like to give it a try?
I think I got it right last week. So I'm going to see if I can keep my streak going.
Okay, Joe, here's your question. Can you guess this NFL player? He was a Heisman winner, was drafted twice, and he played for one team. Is it Bo Jackson, Jim Kelly, Steve Young, or Herschel Walker?
All right. Trying to think here. You said Heisman Trophy winner?
Yeah.
And played for one team.
Yes.
Shoot. I can't even narrow this one down. I have maybe an idea. Is it Herschel Walker?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
It was Bo Jackson.
Okay.
Because he got drafted twice. One's in the MLB, one in the.
Oh, okay. Because
that was a trick hint there. He was drafted twice. That tricked you there.
Yeah, that didn't throw me off. I mean, it probably, had I known, if it was baseball, then I would have got it. But yeah, that was a tough one. That was a great question. But I couldn't even narrow that one down. It could have been any of those guys, in my opinion. But excellent question. I'll get him again next week.
And Joe, was there anything else that you wanted to talk about before we leave?
No, it's just like we said in the beginning of the season. Can't believe we're coming up to week 8 already, and here's something I was going to mention, that an interesting stat that I saw. We were talking about some of these big injuries, right? We had Ayuk go down. Some of these big players. There's always seems to be 1 week in the NFL where you have just a whole flood of injuries to big name players. We had Ayuk go down for Santa Clara. We had Deshaun Watson go down with the Achilles. We had, the guys in Tampa go down. And something interesting. Now, I am one to admit when I'm wrong here. How many times have you heard me say, and you might have even said it yourself, that I am so sick of seeing them play on this artificial turf, and that every stadium should be, grass field. You're going to cut down on the injuries, and you're not going to see a lot of this stuff. I saw this on Twitter earlier, and he mentioned some of these big injuries, and he said, what playing surface were they playing on? And I was ready to jump in. Oh, see, he's saying it too. It's artificial. But then he's like, wait a minute. The surface rhymes with ASS, or it has that in it. And I think, holy cow, that's right. All of these major injuries that happened over the weekend happened on grass. So maybe that artificial turf isn't causing the injuries. I still think it has something to do with maybe a little bit more, but maybe we don't have to roll out the grass to every stadium these days, because all of the Watson's injury in Cleveland, and the ones in Santa Clara, and the ones in Tampa, all on grass fields. So maybe, that turf is not the reason for all of
the Bills'
these.
new stadium's a grass field, by the way.
Is it? I'm glad. I think it should be. I still say every stadium should be grass, and I much prefer to watch games on grass. But again, I was really out saying turf is causing all these injuries. And of course, a bad turf could. I still say the turfs in London and in Brazil and all that stuff were horrible and that. But they could certainly be responsible to cause injuries, and I think they have. But maybe it's just hey, this is the trend we have going in the NFL. Guys are getting hurt anywhere and any way and on any surface. And, there's an equal opportunity to happen on a grass field, as we saw this weekend, where about 5 great players went down. And maybe turf isn't the culprit after all.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, looks like we come to the end of our show. So, Joe, where can we find you on social media on Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024?
Wow. October 22nd. I'm Joe Dell Sports on Twitter X. Again, celebrating the start of my winter sports that I love, basketball, hockey, still talking football, some World Series that we got coming up, and just so much going on in the sports world. Even across the pond, just soccer, I love soccer too. So commenting on things like that as well. So you can find me there, Joe Dell Sports on Twitter X.
And then you can find me on Bill's Chat 1 and Bill's Mafia Chat, and also at Jamie Malloy, the unbiased journalist, at DJ Dognags on X, and also theforkball.com, where I write about all sports. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, comment, and ring that bell for notifications. For more content on Driving to the Top Productions, like our amazing Buffalo Sports Conversation Room Season 2, or every Tuesday night open mic night at 9:00 p.m. But log on to our YouTube page, Twitch stream, Facebook stream, X stream, or wherever you consume your podcast. Thank you very much for listening. And remember, folks, Amari Cooper came through for the Bills in his first start this week. Will Cooper Kupp get traded from the Rams with all the receivers injured this past weekend? And the officials are still giving the calls to the Kansas City Chiefs. But one thing remains the same. To quote our friend Chris Berman, nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. See you next week, folks.
All right. Good night, everybody.
3, 2, 1.